Welcome back to Take One. This is your host, Juan Pablo Sa, and this is part 2 of everything I watched at VIFF. If you missed part 1 and you want to see all parts in this series, click on this playlist right here. But now, on with the video. On October 1st, I watched 2 movies, and the first one of those films is The Son. The Son is a drama about a father, played by Hugh Jackman, who has his busy life with his new partner and their baby thrown into disarray when his ex-wife Kate turns up with their teenage son, Nicholas. This is the newest film from director Florian Zeller, who previously directed The Father. For those of you who don't know, this is a movie that won Anthony Hopkins an Oscar for Best Actor. And this film, just like The Father, is also based on a play written by him. I'm not gonna lie, walking into The Son, I was very nervous. And the reason why I was so nervous is because this film has been getting some terrible reviews coming out of other film festivals. And honestly, that is something that really surprised me. And the reason why that surprised me so much is because I love The Father. I generally think it is one of the best movies of 2020. And this film, The Son, is based on a play by Florian Zeller, just like The Father, is written by Christopher Hampton, just like The Father, has cinematography by Ben Smithard, just like The Father, and is directed by Florian Zeller, just like The Father. Considering that, I find it very hard to believe that the same team behind The Father would suddenly make a terrible film. And you know what? Call me crazy if you want, but I thought The Son was pretty freaking great. You know, the performances by Hugh Jackman, Vanessa Kirby, and Laura Dern are absolutely phenomenal. The story was emotional and poignant, the flashbacks were utilized to perfection, and the music by Hans Zimmer is, of course, amazing. Now, to address some of the things that critics have been saying about The Son, all I will say is that the main criticisms that I've seen being thrown at this film are, first of all, that Sam McGrath's performance wasn't great, and second of all, that the film was way too manipulative. In regards to the first point of criticism, that Sam McGrath's performance wasn't great, genuinely, I kind of agree with this criticism. You know, I certainly didn't think that his performance was great, but I didn't think it was bad either, or at least for me, it never sucked me out of the experience. But now, in regards to the second point of criticism, the idea that the film is too manipulative, this is just a critique that I genuinely don't agree with. And the reason why I don't agree with this point of criticism is that the whole point of this movie, as well as The Father's, is to make you feel like the characters on screen. In The Father, Florian Zeller manipulates you into feeling as if you have dementia. And in The Son, Florian Zeller is doing the exact same thing. He is manipulating you, but this time to make you feel as if you were depressed. So is it manipulative? Yes, absolutely. But it is meant to be. Considering that, I genuinely enjoyed The Son. And if I were to give it a score in between 1 to 10, I would give it an 8 out of 10 because I personally thought it was great. But once again, take my words with a grain of salt because I am clearly in the minority for this one. Now, the second movie that I watched on the 1st of October was The Banshees of Inisherin. The Banshees of Inisherin is a drama/comedy about 2 lifelong friends who find themselves in an impasse when one of them suddenly decides to abruptly end their relationship. This movie was written and directed by Martin McDonagh, who has directed some incredible films such as In Bruges, 7 Psychopaths, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And when it comes to The Banshees of Inisherin, I absolutely adore this film. The performances by Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson are absolutely incredible. They are teaming up once again after In Bruges, and they absolutely kill it. That said, there are 2 other performances that I have to highlight, and that is Kerry Condon and Barry Keoghan. They also kick it out of the park when it comes to The Banshees of Inisherin. Now, when it comes to the script of this film, I thought this script is one of the best and most clever scripts of the entire year. And the reason why I love it so much is because it is so simple, and yet Martin McDonagh is able to do some amazing things with it. You know, when I heard that this movie was about a friendship between 2 guys that suddenly ends when one of the 2 decides he doesn't want to speak to the other anymore, I thought for sure there was going to be more to the story, and I just simply wasn't aware of it. That said, that is not the case. That is literally the entire movie. This entire movie is just Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell are friends until one day Brendan Gleeson decides he doesn't want to speak to Colin Farrell anymore. That is it. That said, the script is so absolutely excellent that it is able to grab such a simple and limited premise and explores it in such a way where it never becomes repetitive and you always feel that the stakes are being raised. And on top of that, this script is so good that this movie is one of the very few I've ever seen that has been able to make me laugh and cry almost simultaneously. Now, apart from everything that I've already mentioned, the thing that elevated the movie for me and turned it into an absolute masterpiece is without a doubt the philosophical dilemmas that can be found at the heart of this movie. These are questions such as, what exactly gives meanings to our life? What makes our lives worth living? Is it enough to just be a good person and to make those around us happy? Or do we have to be remembered in order for our lives to be meaningful? And without giving anything away, these are questions that the Banshees of Inisherin perfectly explores. And as someone who has wrestled with these dilemmas myself, I adore seeing this clash of ideals being brought to life by Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson's characters. So yeah, if I were to give this film a score in between 1 to 10, I would definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, give it a 10 out of 10 because The Banshees of Inisherin is an absolute masterpiece. Now, on the next day of the film festival, on October 2nd, I watched 3 movies, and all 3 of these films are going to be distributed by A24. So in a way, on October the 2nd, I watched an A24 triple shot. And the first film that I saw as part of this A24 triple shot was Close. According to its synopsis, Close tells the story of the intense friendship between 2 13-year-old boys, Leo and Remy, and what happens when it suddenly gets disrupted. This is a Belgian film directed by Lukas Dhont, and I thought this movie was really freaking great. The human moments that this movie is able to capture are both subtle and beautiful. All the performances are incredible, and this movie was able to pull on my heartstrings like very few have done. There's not much I can say about this movie because I don't want to give away what this film is actually about, but all I'm going to say is that by the end of this film, there was genuinely not a single dry eye in the entire theater. If I were to give a score to Close, I would give it an 8 out of 10, which means I thought this film was great. Now, the second movie that I watched as part of this A24 triple shot was actually my most anticipated movie of the entire festival, and this film is The Whale. According to its synopsis, The Whale is a drama about a reclusive and obese English teacher as he attempts to reconnect with his estranged teenage daughter. This is the newest film directed by Darren Aronofsky, who has directed absolute masterpieces such as Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and Black Swan. I am a huge Darren Aronofsky fan, therefore, needless to say, I was extremely excited for this film. Not only because I'm a huge Aronofsky fan and I love his body of work, but also because everyone who has seen this film has been saying that Brendan Fraser's performance in The Whale is one of the best of the entire year. In fact, this film got a 6-minute standing ovation coming out of the Venice International Film Festival, and there is an extremely heartwarming video of Brendan Fraser just being overwhelmed by joy and tearing up as people are clapping for him and cheering for his performance. If you haven't seen the video, definitely check it out. Anyways, I was very excited for The Whale, and I am very happy to say that this film did not disappoint, and I thought The Whale was absolutely amazing. Now, before I keep talking about The Whale, I have to say that this movie is not going to be for everyone. This film is extremely depressing, and at times it can be very hard to watch. On top of that, the entire movie takes place on a very limited location, and the film is made up almost entirely of conversations. So yes, The Whale is not going to be for everyone. That said, it was for me. In my opinion, Brendan Fraser not only gives the best performance of the year, but also one of the best performances I've ever seen, period. This performance is absolutely amazing. That said, apart from an incredible performance from Brendan Fraser, there is something else that I really love about this movie, and that is the fact that this film works like a Rorschach test of sorts. And what I mean by that is that just like a Rorschach test, your interpretation of this film depends just as much on the film itself as it does on you. I believe wholeheartedly that depending on who you are as a person and what your beliefs are, you're going to get something completely different out of this film. And this is something that became clear to me right after we watched The Whale, and I asked my friends what they thought of the film's characters. You know, I was fascinated by the fact that we read these characters in completely different ways. A character that I thought was extremely selfless, some of my friends described as selfish. A character that I felt pity for, some of my friends absolutely hated, and so on. So yeah, I truly believe that what you get out of The Whale and your opinions on the film's characters will be unique to you and will depend on your perspective on life. Depending on if you are an optimist or a pessimist, or in other words, a glass half full or a glass half empty sort of person, your interpretation of this film will change. And that is something that I find absolutely fascinating. In The Whale, Brendan Fraser's character believes that people are incapable of not caring. But will you believe in the same thing? I don't know, but that's for you to find out. If I were to give it a score to The Whale, I would give it a 9 out of 10 because I thought this movie was absolutely amazing. Now, the third movie that I watched as part of this A24 triple shot was Aftersun. Aftersun follows Sophie as she reflects on the shared joy and private melancholy of a holiday she took with her father 20 years earlier. Memories real and imagined fill the gaps between as she tries to reconcile the father that she knew with the man she didn't. This film was directed by Charlotte Wells, and I'll be honest, this is a movie that has grown on me quite a lot. When I first watched it, I thought it was great, but I thought it was a bit too simple. That said, the more I think about it, the more I love it, and right now, I think Aftersun was absolutely amazing. Aftersun does a lot with very little. This is one of those films that are deceptively simple. At first glance, this seems to be a basic story about a girl going on a vacation with her father, but when you really think about it, you quickly realize that this movie is about so much more. Aftersun can be slow and plotless, but it is also filled with some of the most human moments I've seen all year. The cinematography is gorgeous, the performances by Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio are incredible, and the ending scene is absolutely beautiful and features the best use of the song Under Pressure that I've ever seen. If I were to give Aftersun a score in between 1 to 10, I would give it a 9 out of 10 because I thought this film was truly amazing. And that is it for part 2 of everything I watched at VIFF. Keep an eye out on our YouTube channel for all future episodes or click on this playlist right here.